This is your News Source Evening Bulletin for today, Friday, the 17th day of July in the year 2020. I'm Gordon Mosley. Here is what we're tracking tonight. Just after the Guyana elections, the government of the United States made a request for a Voice of America broadcast to be relayed to Venezuela using medium-wave broadcast frequencies that belong to Guyana. The request was turned down by the Guyana government as it was concerned that Guyana becoming involved could further destabilize relations between Guyana and Venezuela. Asked for a comment on the issue today, President David Granger, through his press officer, said given the length of an unpoliced western border, the influx of refugees, the unsettled territorial question, and the public health risk, it would not be in the interest of Guyana to do anything to contribute to destabilizing relations at this time. The President's office indicated that no other comment will be made on the issue at this time. The U.S. government's request was made through the Guyana Embassy in Washington and the Ministry of Foreign Affairs. The Foreign Affairs Ministry, which had concerns about the request, forwarded a memo on the request to the Ministry of Public Telecommunications on the 1st of April. News Source has seen a copy of that memo. In the request by the U.S. government broadcaster, they indicate that they have a technical team that has already studied how the broadcast could be done from Guyana and was also interested in a broadcast frequency being leased to the Voice of America. Additionally, the American broadcaster requested information on whether Guyana would be open to issuing a broadcast license to the Voice of America to broadcast on a new frequency or an already allocated frequency. There were also questions about whether Guyana would allow the broadcast power to be increased on an existing broadcast frequency or a new one to allow the broadcast. News Source understands that the issue and the request made their way to the desk of the President, and he may have been the one to make the final decision on not granting the request because of serious stability concerns and the possibility of Guyana being seen as working along with a foreign interest to interfere in the internal political situation in Venezuela. Although Guyana and Venezuela are currently before the International Court on a quest by Guyana to reinforce and make final the 1899 arbitral award which set the boundaries between the two countries, Guyana has been keen not to interfere in the internal affairs of Venezuela. The U.S. government, through its current administration, has been stepping up its non-support of the current Venezuelan government and even recognizes Venezuela's opposition leader as the country's president. Just recently, the U.S. issued additional sanctions against Venezuela and also offered a reward for the arrest of the current Venezuelan president, Nicolas Maduro. Although in Guyana, the Guyana Elections Commission has not made a final declaration on the March elections and the matter is currently before the courts, the U.S. government, through its Secretary of State, has been pushing for the incumbent government to step aside. More news coming up in a moment.
Hi Guyana, it's your boy Kimo Paul here. Reminding you to stay at least 1 meter away from persons or 3 feet to avoid contracting the flu or the COVID-19. It is also important that we stay at home and to avoid gatherings of more than 5 persons. We must all play our part, so let's protect ourselves and our families from COVID-19. We must all play our part. The Ministry of Public Health cannot do this alone, so let's all come together and fight this virus.
For further information, check our website www.health.gov.gy or visit the ministry's Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, or Twitter page.
Tired of long lines? Register with MyGTT at mygtt.co.gy. That's mygtt.co.gy to view and pay your bills from anywhere. Enter to win an Amazon gift card worth $25 or a bounty voucher worth 5,000 Guyana dollars when you sign up today. GTT, do more.
GBTI is your Guyanese bank, a bank that understands every customer's unique needs, opportunities, challenges, and financial concerns. At GBTI, we see you for you. Whether you're buying a new home or car, planning your next vacation or retirement, saving for your child's future, or whether you're ready to take that bold step of investing in your dream business idea, we are with you every step of the way. We hear your stories and watch you focus on your dreams as we share your aspirations. We are more than just banking. We are a family. We are part of your community. Our commitment extends way beyond the walls of our branches and is demonstrated every day in the opportunities we provide to our individual and business customers. The support, time, and commitment we give back to communities across Guyana to help improve the lives of our Guyanese families. Because we see Guyana through your eyes. Hello, boys and girls. As you prepare to write your exams, there are a few things you will have to do each day so that you and those around you can be safe and healthy. Please remember, on the day of your exam, you must wear a mask correctly, covering your mouth and nose before entering the school compound. Wash your hands with soap and water at the entrance of the school at the sink provided for 20 seconds. Paying attention to the palm and back of your hands, between your fingers and their tips. Dry your hands with a clean tissue and dispose in the closed bin nearby. Boys and girls, your temperature will be tested by an official. Then you will go to the designated waiting area with the floor signs and markings clearly visible, standing or sitting 2 meters or 6 feet apart at all times. It is now time to start your exam. The invigilator will direct you to the examination room. All the best. Boys and girls, playing and gathering are not allowed. Parents, the Ministry of Education thanks you for the support you have given the children during the time at home. However, in the interest of everyone's well-being, you will not be allowed to enter the school compound. Parents and guardians, we are counting on your support in picking up the children promptly after their exam. Remember, the Ministry of Education will provide transport for children who are living far away that require that assistance. Please be reminded that vending outside the school's compound is prohibited. Only authorized canteen vendors with a copy of their food handler certificate and wearing a mask, food gloves, apron, hairnet, and a hat will be allowed. Always remember to wear your mask correctly, wash your hands, and stay safe. And let's win the fight against COVID-19. A message from the Ministry of Education.
Welcome back. U.S. Congressman and Chairman of the House Democratic Caucus, Representative Hakeem Jeffries, has blasted the U.S. government's recent statement questioning democracy in Guyana. In a statement on his official Facebook page this afternoon, Congressman Jeffries said the Donald Trump administration is not in any position to lecture Guyana or any other country about democracy. Jeffries, who previously condemned foreign interference in Guyana's electoral process, today said he has not taken any side in the Guyana elections, and neither should the Trump administration. He reminded that there is currently a contested parliamentary election in Guyana, adding that the outcome is in dispute, much like in the U.S. during the aftermath of the 2000 presidential election between George W. Bush and Al Gore. According to Jeffries, U.S. President Donald Trump regularly poisons the fabric of America's democracy with what he called his corrupt abuse of power and false claims of voter fraud, and therefore the Trump administration cannot lecture anyone about democracy. The congressman, who is a senior Democratic leader, said the Trump administration has consistently embraced dictators and autocrats in countries like Brazil, North Korea, Turkey, Russia, and Saudi Arabia, and has done nothing to promote democracy throughout the world. The congressman's blistering rebuke of the Trump administration's statement on the Guyana elections comes on the heels of another U.S. congressional representative, Congresswoman Yvette Clarke, expressing similar worry about the U.S. government's statements and actions on the elections in Guyana.
Guyana, as a sovereign nation, has the responsibility to conduct free and fair elections, and that every process under its constitution must be adhered to in order for the democratic process to reach its logical conclusion.
U.S. Secretary of State Mike Pompeo, in announcing visa restrictions on unnamed Guyanese officials on Wednesday, called on President David Granger to step aside. That call came even as there is a case before Guyana's Supreme Court, no declaration by the Elections Commission, and the U.S. ambassador's repeated statements that the U.S. has not picked a side in the elections. Well, U.S. Secretary of State Mike Pompeo attempted to make contact with President David Granger at least twice on Wednesday before he announced visa restrictions against persons in Guyana that the U.S. believes are undermining democracy. Sources close to the Ministry of the Presidency have confirmed to news source that the attempts to make contact with the president were made through the Guyana Embassy in Washington by the U.S. State Department. News source understands that the president was informed of the efforts to make contact with him, but reportedly indicated that he was not available at the time when the call from Washington was being requested. The U.S. Secretary of State went ahead with his announcement on Wednesday, while his office has reportedly indicated that he would still like to have a discussion with President David Granger. Political watchers familiar with the request have indicated to the news source that it appears as though Pompeo might have wanted to make the call to bolster his statement. During his statement on the visa restrictions, Mr. Pompeo said President David Granger should step aside. That statement was made even as there has been no final declaration by the Guyana Elections Commission, and the matter under declaration is currently before Guyana's Supreme Court. During a press conference yesterday, the U.S. Ambassador to Guyana, Sarah Ann Lynch, admitted that the government of Guyana was not formally informed of the visa restrictions. She said the government would have been made aware at the same time that the rest of the country was made aware via Pompeo's press engagement. The ambassador also said she could not identify the persons who will be affected by the visa restrictions, but the embassy later indicated that the affected persons will be informed directly by the Consular Affairs Division of the U.S. Embassy. And let's tell you now that the Organization of American States has announced that its Permanent Council will be meeting on Tuesday afternoon to discuss the electoral situation in Guyana. The meeting was requested by the Secretary General of the OAS, Luis Almagro. The OAS has been adamant that the results from the recount should be used to declare the winner of the Guyana elections. The OAS had an observer team in Guyana for both the elections and the recount, and in its final report it raised serious concern about the declaration for Region 4 by the returning officer for that region. In a statement back in June, the Organization of American States called on the APNU-AFC administration to begin what it called the process of transition to allow the legitimate government to take its place. That statement by the OAS came as the Guyana Elections Commission, which is still to make a final declaration on the elections, was meeting to consider the report of the CARICOM team, as well as the report of the Chief Elections Officer. The OAS has made several other statements since then, calling for the final declaration to be made based on the tabulations from the recount. Chief Justice Roxanne George spent the entire afternoon and into this evening listening to oral arguments on the case taken before the court seeking to prevent the Guyana Elections Commission from declaring a final result of the elections using the figures from the recount. The case was filed by private citizen Masenga Jones, whose attorney senior counsel John Jeremy argued that the law is clear on a final declaration being made based on the declarations by returning officers. The returning officers were not part of the recount.
But the point is that nothing in that order which gave birth to the recount can supersede the provisions, the express provisions of the Constitution with respect to declarations, and nothing in that order can take away the provision, the clear words in Section 163, which, as you know, begins, subject to the provisions of this article, the High Court shall have exclusive jurisdiction to determine any question, and it goes on.
The chairperson of GCOM, retired Justice Claudette Singh, was listed as one of the respondents in the matter. Her attorney Kim Kite argued that the Elections Commission is guided by its recount order, and that order allows it to make declarations based on the recount.
The court specifically, Your Honor, considered the transparent, credible process which resulted from Order 60. In our submissions, Your Honor, we have stated the process which Order 60 adopted and what different officers as a result were permitted to do as a result of that process. We rely, Your Honor, on those submissions.
A number of other interested parties made oral submissions during today's hearing. Earlier this week, the Chief Justice said the nub of the issue before the court is whether the recount order issued by GCOM was valid and is valid to permit a declaration of the 2nd of March election results based on the recount. The Guyana Police Force and a number of other government agencies are investigating reports that some Guyanese boat and bus operators have been using illegal crossings to bring Brazilian nationals into Guyana, despite the large number of COVID-19 cases in the neighboring country. The Iwukrama Conservation Site has raised concern about the issue and the fact that some of the illegal traffickers are using the Iwukrama rainforest to conduct their illegal activities. In a statement, Iwukrama informed that on the 13th of June, it was reported that a group of persons believed to be Brazilian nationals were spotted in its rainforest. Additionally, on the 6th of July, police investigators found 3 illegal Brazilians on a bus in the Iwukrama area. The Brazilians were removed from the bus and taken back to Brazil. A few days later, Iwukrama staff members discovered a secret crossing that allowed the illegal Brazilians to bypass police and security checkpoints after illegally crossing over into Guyana. A Brazilian national and a Guyanese national were also found walking along a trail in the area. The Brazilian was arrested and immediately deported. The Guyanese national was held for questioning. The management at the Iwukrama Conservation Site has indicated that it is taking the situation very seriously, as trafficking of illegal persons is criminal and poses a serious health risk to community residents and other residents of Guyana. It was pointed out that the increase in cases in the Rupununi region may be linked to persons crossing over from Brazil, and Iwukrama remains very worried about that situation. The Ministries of Health and Citizenship will be joining forces to assist the police in the efforts to combat the illegal smuggling of Brazilians into Guyana. Guyana's border crossings with Brazil have been closed for the past 4 months, as Brazil has seen a skyrocketing of its coronavirus cases. The country has recorded more than 2 million coronavirus cases and in excess of 70,000 deaths. On the police blotter, police investigators have arrested a person of interest as they continue their investigations into the gunning down murder of a 47-year-old contractor at his Durban Street worksite. The dead man has been identified as Prem Suk, also known as Dave, of Luziknan on the east coast of Demerara. According to eyewitnesses, the contractor and another worker were at a construction site for a new building when several shots shattered the early evening calm. Persons close by dashed for cover and Prem Suk's body was discovered on the ground with multiple wounds, including one to the head. It is suspected that the lone gunman who managed to escape was behind the murder. Persons in the area said the incident occurred around 5:30 in the afternoon on Thursday. The man's employee, who was at the back of the building operating a generator, only became aware that something had happened when he saw residents running toward the scene. An investigation of the incident is ongoing as lawmen try to figure out a motive. Family members said a similar attack on the man's life was made earlier this year. Across the Region is coming up next.
We give thanks for real. You spend all that money on your watch. How much time you spend with your son? So much money in the club. How much you spend with the ones you love? The simple things are your blessings.
Cheese, please. Remember Tyrus Riley, this one we aim to please. The music will never ease. Cheese, please.
They've made a positive impact on the heavy-duty transportation industry in Guyana since they've arrived. Guyanese are amazed at their power, durability, efficiency, and superior handling capabilities. These are brand new trucks, manufactured in partnership with German, Italian, and French companies. They have a powerful reputation for operating under very adverse Guyanese conditions and come with full after-sales service and spare parts. They're the most sought-after trucks today, with over 500 units in Guyana, and they're available in over 100 countries, including South America and the Caribbean. Be smart. Buy brand new ST Howo trucks today. Call 608-4998 and arrange for an inspection at ST Truck Guyana Incorporated, Block B, Public Road, Coven and East Bank, Demerara.
We are legions of men standing strong, but never too proud to stoop and help someone. We must send a clear signal to all. Do right. Walk in upright ways, knowing that's what being a man is all about. And ever aware that things will only get worse when good men do nothing. Stand strong. Be the one to live right.
The following is an important message from the Ministry of Public Health. Getting your workplace ready for COVID-19. Surfaces such as desks, tables, and telephones with keyboards must be wiped with disinfectant regularly, or at least every few hours. Use containers of hand sanitizers and place them in prominent places around the workplace. Provide access to places where staff can wash their hands with soap and water, and promote regular hand washing at the workplace. The Ministry of Public Health has a hotline to provide information on the coronavirus. Members of the public can call 227-4986 or 624-3067.
Across the region right now, Prime Minister of Grenada, Dr. Keith Mitchell, has disclosed that Grenada will soon be reducing taxes on airline tickets as part of the measures aimed at encouraging intra-regional travel within CARICOM. He said this is being done as the government implements various strategies to encourage travel within the region. Speaking on the pending liquidation of regional carrier Liat, Mitchell said that there are other airlines which will be filling the void left by Liat, which suspended its service back in April after most regional states shut down their airports as part of the measures aimed at containing the novel coronavirus. Liat, which has served the region for more than 40 years, had been experiencing financial challenges before the onset of the coronavirus, and the closure of the airports around the region placed the airline in a more difficult position. In neighboring Brazil, hospitals are struggling to cope with an influx of coronavirus patients, as confirmed cases have crossed the 2 million mark in the world's second worst hit nation by the pandemic. More than 45,000 infections were reported by the Health Ministry on Thursday, but the real figures are believed to be much higher due to insufficient testing. The overall confirmed number of coronavirus-related deaths stood at 76,688, also the second highest globally behind the United States. Even as cases wane somewhat in the biggest and hardest hit Brazilian cities, infections are peaking in new locations across the country. And finally, at this time, international news. Dozens of pro-Sharia supporters have protested in Sudan's capital of Khartoum over recent government reforms that allow non-Muslims to drink alcohol and scrap the apostasy law and public flogging. The reforms come after longtime ruler Omar al-Bashir was ousted last year following massive street protests. The protesters, who opposed any easing of Islamic laws, shouted God's laws shall not be replaced and had banners saying no to secularism. Some of the protesters said Sudan is not the US. Under the new laws, women also no longer need permission from a male relative to travel with their children. Non-Muslims are now allowed to consume alcohol in private. However, the ban on Muslim drinking remains. And that's your News Source Evening Bulletin for tonight. I'm Gordon Mosley reporting.